oversight I discovered when I began my investigation. I need some water, please.
I got some.
I've got some over here. I'm taking some medicine that dries my mouth out. I've never had that problem in my life.
Would you like some gum?
The cold doesn't help either.
Here's an extra one.
I'm good, thank you. What I discovered when we started our investigation is our biggest problem is lack of oversight. And it's not because legislators don't want to oversee DHS, and it wasn't even that we knew we weren't overseeing, and I shouldn't say DHS, DCFS, child welfare. It's because of federal law and the way it was happening. If something's going on in DFA, that's where we do taxes and stuff, we watch everything they're doing. We call them in, we get all over them, get all in their business, we can look at all their records. If something's going on in the highway department, something's going on in the state police, the prosecutors, you name it, we call them in, we get all over them. But the problems with oversight with DCFS starts with communication. And to give you one example, the Stanley case, which is what got me involved in this, I had found out that they had to tell me everything about a case. And because they kept telling me that if I knew everything, if I knew what they knew, I'd know they were guilty. Over 24 times I asked for everything. I said, what is it I don't know? Because I'm supposed to have everything and I can't see it, so what do I not have? And so I would ask officially, again, for everything. But 21 months later, an email came to my attention, and I got that email, and that email was written by the supervisor on the case, who came in the next morning after the kids were taken. And basically, in short, she said, we screwed up. Now that email disappeared for 21 months. It was lost. But here's what's alarming. Once I got the email, under state law, which was to match federal law, I couldn't tell another legislator what it said. I couldn't even tell the governor what it said. I could tell them the email existed, and if they chose to ask for it, they could read it. Well, you can't have oversight when you can't talk to the other legislators about what the problems are. So we had one of the bills this last time allowed us to talk to each other. I just received a letter that wasn't to me, it was to DHS from the feds. I just received it this last week that they're telling us now that we're in violation of federal law, that we've got to repeal my law or we'll lose $1 million in funding. Now that's one of the things you can do. You have to get hold of your legislators, you have to get hold of the governor, and you have to say, if we lose the $1 million, we can't go back to our legislators not being able to talk to each other. Because we are not gossiping about what happened to your family. Okay? What we're doing is talking about the terrible things that the agencies have done, that judges have done. Okay? The way the system's not working. Okay? That's what we talk about. So we've got to keep the communication as part of it. In the oversight, it took us forever. I kept being told there was no way we could do it. We finally came up with a Child Welfare Legislative Oversight Committee. It was actually, they wouldn't let us do it. The feds, I mean, we kept going back and forth with the feds, and they wouldn't let us create just a legislative committee. And we couldn't do it in open. It's the only committee we have that's closed door. But we discovered that there was a committee 20 years old that had never met, that was part legislative and part agency and part citizen, and we recreated that, and we now meet, and we can look at cases. It's limited. We've got to expand it. We've got to do more with it. But we are looking at some of these cases, and as we are, it's opening some eyes. And we will send a report to our committees that deal with this. We'll send a report to the governor. We'll send a report to the agencies, and the agency heads are on this committee. And it's very important that we continue with that. I chair that committee. In May, the first bill that I filed, the only bill that I've actually got filed so far, is a very simple little bill. that says that legislators have to be allowed
How many of those committee members are here, Senator?
in the closed child welfare.
May I ask you that?
Joe, they've got other things to do.
Okay.
Trust me, I mean,
I do too, so do you.
you could be asking the same thing I could have.
I recognize one here, one out of 20-something. Alex is here. Any other committee members here, Alex?
You could be asking, you know, where I was at too,
But I'm not. You're right there.
Anyway, what's the name of the bill? I'm sorry.
Anyway, SB7,
SB7.
in May, I went to a child welfare hearing, and I've been to many, and I was thrown out of the courtroom. And the reason I was thrown out of the courtroom was simply because I was there. And this is a judge who I like, and he likes me, but his interpretation of the law is simply nobody can be there, and there's no exceptions for legislators. And think about how scary that is, because I hear about secret courts in Russia, I hear about secret courts in Saudi Arabia or Venezuela, and that scares me. And that we have secret courts in the United States that not even an elected representative can go in and see how it works. Now think about the fact that I chair the Child Welfare Legislative Oversight Committee. We make the laws on how these courts operate. We make the laws on what DCFS does, the ad litems do, CASA does, and I can't even go in and see how it operates or if they're doing their job or not.
Claim sovereign immunity.
So obviously I came out of that experience and said, we need a law that says that legislators can go, because you know, they can throw me out and I'll go back, but I've got other legislators, you know, you talk about them not being here today. Folks, we've got wonderful state senators and state representatives around this state that I call up and say, I can't be in that court in Jonesboro, will you please go? I can't be in that court in Springville, will you please go? And they drop everything, because keep in mind, we have regular jobs. They drop everything and they go. And often, and Joe can tell you, often because we show up, things happen differently from what they would have happened had we not shown up. And so it's important that we get to be in that courtroom and we get to see what happens. But the reason I was there in May, the reason I was there was I got called because we already had a law that said you needed to place with relatives if possible, and I had run a new one that strengthened it. And we found out that we had 3 kids that were taken December 14th of last year, right before Christmas, and in May, not only 1, were they not placed with relatives, 2, were they not placed together, they had not seen each other for 6 months. We, the state, are abusing kids.
Exactly. Amen.
Okay? And so they called me because they knew I'd be interested, so I went to see what was happening and got thrown out of the courtroom. And you know how that feels. If you've dealt with the system, you know how it feels to deal with that kind of thing. I'll get with you in a minute.